There's no question that you're aware that our world is overrun with social media, right? Snapchat, as you are no doubt aware, is one of the major social media platforms that is operating in our world today. It's young and rather new in the pantheon of social media platforms. Facebook, of course, Twitter, Instagram, and then here comes Snapchat. Snapchat is unique because you just take a short little video, you post it to your followers, to your people, and then it vanishes, never to be seen again, unless, of course, somebody captures it and then uses it against you later. But the fact is, Snapchat had a rapid growth. It started or launched in September 2011. 25 images per second were being uploaded by mid-2012, and 160 million daily active users, 160 million people using it every day by mid-2017. But then something happened. A young lady, 21 years of age at the time, Kylie Jenner, tweeted something about Snapchat. On one social media platform, Twitter, she posted a comment about another social media platform, Snapchat. So does anyone else not open Snapchat anymore? Implication, I don't. Kylie doesn't. Or is it just me? Ugh, this is so sad. Well, they did a redesign of the platform and she didn't like exactly how it looked. And you would think that's pretty innocuous, no big deal. So some 21-year-old girl posts a comment on Twitter about a social media platform, which is in fact a corporation raking in a great deal of money. But it was a big deal because within a matter of days, within 5 days, Snapchat stock dropped 6%. If that number doesn't sound like a lot to you, CNN Business posted that Snapchat stock loses 1.3 billion, yes, it's the word billion, after Kylie Jenner sends out that single tweet. It just plummets. The entire corporation behind the social media platform nearly comes crashing down to the ground because a single young lady who happens to be extremely popular on these social media platforms simply said, I don't like it. I don't like the new thing that's going on here. People began to say, who is this girl? Is she wielding the power of a god? Can she, with a single tweet, bring down a corporate entity worth billions? Well, apparently so. What we are witnessing right now is a phenomenon that in the world of psychology is being called, in quote marks here, celebrity worship, extreme fandom. And this celebrity worship, this extreme fandom, as it's being called, is being diagnosed as a psychological disorder, an obsessive addictive disorder. In fact, we're told by a number of psychologists, not least of which is Saul Levine, psychiatrist who has explored the impact of celebrity culture on specifically children and teenagers. And these are his words. He says, extreme fandom can inspire them, he's speaking of children and young people, to post pictures on websites or paste posters on their bedroom walls or on their school lockers. I mean, we're all familiar with this phenomenon, right? Where you, when you were a kid, before there was any social media, you just went right down to, Tower Records and got a poster of Alice Cooper or whatever and posted it on your wall. I just dated some of you. I could tell just by the feeling that I got in some of your eyes how old this room is. Okay, so check this out. This is amazing to me. What he goes on to say is sometimes the adulation borders on intense worship or even fantasized romantic love. Well, we're launching into a series that we are calling Rival Gods. And we're taking on, we're confronting the prominent gods of our culture, our celebrity culture, our popular culture, the gods of power and money and sex. And as we do that, we need to understand the world in which we live. We need to understand what's going on, not only in the world around us, we need to understand what's going on in the world around us because it's impacting us. The way we think, the way we feel, the way we process reality itself. And if you're living in a bubble completely protected from the popular culture, you still want to understand it because your children are not living in that bubble. We are living in a time of extreme exposure to sensory stimuli. And that extreme exposure to sensory stimuli is creating a public health / psychological crisis of mammoth proportions internationally. I myself have been in the deep, dark, no lights, no city, ambient noise, just the deep, dark, silent Amazon rainforest. Encountering a group of people who have no sense of what's going on in the world around them. They're living in a tribe, in a world, in a community that hasn't changed much for thousands of years. And yet all of them had cell phones. They were wearing grass skirts and they were hunting their food with blow darts. I kid you not. I actually bartered for one of the blow dart guns and I have it in my office. Bought it from one of the kids who didn't know what to do with the money because they don't use money. So I gave them a little electronic device, some headphones in exchange for the blow dart gun. You can go almost anywhere in the world right now. And people are experiencing this extreme engagement with sensory stimuli. And according to Saul Levine, sometimes the admiration, the adulation, the applause, the focus borders on intense worship and even fantasized romantic love. So what I'm suggesting to you so far in our time together this morning is that idolatry is bad for your psychological health. But you're thinking, are we talking about idolatry? I thought we were talking about celebrity. Celebrity idolatry, the line is fine between the two. It's a thin membrane and can be punctured rather easily, rather quickly. You can cross the line between just paying attention versus becoming obsessed. And the world of medicine is telling us, hey, we're watching this go down, and it is a public health crisis, psychologically speaking, for our children and for young adults. So Medical Daily, a prominent medical journal online that tracks with what's going on with health on the planet, published an article all the way back in 2015, October 25 of 2015, with the very provocative title, The Psychological Effects of Idolatry. These are not religious people, these are medical people who are operating purely from a scientific orientation, and they found a use for the word, the biblical word, the theological word. They found a use for the word idolatry in their secular vocabulary. Do you understand the significance of that? They said what we see going on in the culture is idolatry, and it has psychological effects or impact. And then the subtitle of the article, How Celebrity Crushes Impact Children's Health. And there is, in fact, an impact. The article informs us, for example, just track with this for a minute, just follow where we're going with this. The article informs us that today, I'm quoting the article, today this obsession with celebrities fuels a $3 billion industry comprised of tabloids, paparazzi photos, exclusive interviews, and reality TV shows, all of which follow the life of celebrities outside of their work. Now, that's the significant part. $3 billion industry that is devoted not to tracking with the songs they're singing, the art they're producing, the movies they're making. $3 billion spent just on peeking in to their personal lives so that people can obsess over them. And you know what these obsessions are like because you've experienced them. What are they wearing? Who are they dating? Who are they marrying? Who are they divorcing? It's cyclical. What kind of car do they drive? What do they eat for breakfast? What's the dietary regime of Kim Kardashian? I need to know. What does their house look like? How much money do they make? So something's happening here with this obsession, with these questions that are constantly hovering beneath the surface in a $3 billion industry. And many of these individuals now, it's very fascinating. I grew up in an era where, for example, singers sang about things external to themselves, about life, about nature, about experiences. Just listen to a John Denver album. Lyrically, it's just beautiful. Just tap in to music when the musicians used to sing about themselves, used to sing about their lives and the things that were happening around them. It was an external focus. Something happened over the last 20 years or so. We've crossed a line where now you can actually be famous for being famous. Kylie Jenner is an example of that. She's part of the Kardashian/Jenner group. They have a reality television show. They're not singing, dancing, making movies per se. There's no actual talent on display that is being cashed in on. That's not to say they're not talented. I don't know, because you never encounter them on that level. They could be talented. I guess Kim Kardashian now is pursuing a law degree, but she's not going to do it through university and education. She's just going to study, and then she's going to take the bar. That won't work, by the way, not in California. You can take the bar. You can challenge the bar in California. You have to know more than she's imagining to pass that test. But the point is, you can be famous for being famous. It's like me taking pictures of me taking pictures of me. That's what's going on in our culture right now. It used to be, Van Morrison was singing about going down to the dock and encountering a boy and his father who were fishing. And it was a beautiful sight to see, and isn't life wonderful between fathers and sons? Well, now, it's many of these people are singing, it's me singing songs about me singing songs about me. I became famous by singing songs which got me money to buy the car, the house, and the jewelry, and the material things I have. And now all my songs are about all that stuff I have that I got from singing songs, and it's not about anything external to me anymore. In movie making, we're witnessing this phenomena. Actors making movies about their careers as actors making movies. It's astounding. One of the most popular movies on the planet right now. I can't remember the name of it. And it's starring Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt. And it's a movie about actors making movies. The whole thing is turning inward on itself. So what is a celebrity? Let's just give a definition. A celebrity is a person who has lots of money and material things. This is what we're tuning into. Right? There's a lot more that is true of them. They all have moms and dads and heartaches and pains, and they have lives. But what we're tuning into in the popular culture is celebrities are those who have lots of money and material things, lots of sexual or romantic exploits that are on display for us to, whoa, did they really? I guess so. Lots of attention, position, and applause. These are the things we're tapping into. Position or power, materialism, money, and sex. These are the things we're obsessed with in the celebrities. They look like we wish we looked, and so we're looking. They have the things we wish we had, so we're constantly doing an inventory on their stuff. They occupy the center of attention that we wish we occupied. Now, I'm going to just whisper a secret to you right now that we're coming to. You actually do occupy the center of someone's attention, as the apple of his eye. There is someone in the universe who is absolutely obsessed with you and is pursuing you. But short of an encounter with that one who is obsessed with us, we are obsessed with others to the point of distraction and mental illness. So Scripture understands far more than we think it does. That old ancient book. What could it possibly know? Well, for one thing, it knows everything that we've just described, far before any of it began to happen on the scale that is happening. In 1 John chapter 2, verse 15, do not love the world. By the world, it doesn't mean the planet with, the terra firma under your feet. It's not talking about the earth. The world is a biblical word for the system, with all of its infrastructure, its industries, the general zeitgeist of the age, the popular way that people are processing reality. Don't love the way people are popularly processing reality would be a good translation here. Don't latch on to the way the world in general is taking in, processing, and living out their existence. Do not love the world or the things in the world. If anyone loves the world, check this out, the love of the Father is not in him. So love is the thing at play here. If my love is fixated outward on the things that this world has to offer me, the love of the Father, which is an entirely different quality of love, is absent from my thinking and feeling process. That's what he's telling us. That if I'm focused on myself for the sake of myself, I am not simultaneously focused on God and others for their sake. These two things aren't held simultaneously in my consciousness. Are you tracking with me? You can't be both self-centeredness and other-centered. You can't be self-centered and other-centered simultaneously. It's not a psychological possibility. You're either focused outward on others or inward on self. And we're going to see where this goes in just a minute. So then he goes on. John says, for all that is in the world. And then he says that it basically boils down to three categories. Now, you can make it more complex than this, but it's not less complex than this. There are a bare minimum of three categories that are on display in the popular culture around us. For all that is in the world system, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life, none of this is of the Father, but of the world. So now we have a dichotomy between two value systems. Are you tracking with that? So now there's one value system that is turned inward and is obsessed with what's happening with my flesh, my eyes, and my position in the world around me, whether my world is small or big. My social circle, I mean. Are you still tracking with me? So all of this is going on at any given moment in the world. Now check this out. And the world, that is the entire psychoedifice of self-centeredness, is passing away. It's winding down to an infinite nil, N-I-L, nada, nothing. It is working itself out of the system because it's not sustainable. You'll see what this means further in just a moment. This world, this entire system of inward focus, well, it's passing away. And the lust of it is passing away. The intense, obsessive lust or desire for what the flesh, the eyes, and the pride of opinion can give me, it's all passing away. But he who does the will of God will abide forever. Here John is telling us that there's only one principle that is eternally sustainable, and it is the love of God. Love is the only thing that never runs out. It never tops out. It never bottoms out. It's exponential. If you fall deeply, deeply in love, even with a human being, you know that you can grow old with somebody. You can be married for 5 years, and then 10, and then 20, and then 50 years, and you can still say, man, I love you more now than I ever did before. Because love doesn't have a cap. It doesn't have a ceiling. It doesn't have walls. It's the only eternally sustainable, exponential principle in circulation in the world. Those who tap into love just keep expanding in their capacities, in meaning, in significance. Life is just, man, there's this line from Bob Dylan that says, some people feel the rain. Other people just get wet. What he's saying is that some people are more conscious of the wonder of life, and other people are shut down, so much so that they can't sense the wonder. The more you love, the more you're filled with wonder. 2 children playing in a park blow your mind. You're just like, wow, that's so beautiful. People who are 115 years old each and been married for 100 of them and still holding hands, you're like, oh, right there at Denny's. You're blown away by the beauty of life and reality, or you're gradually shutting down and imploding in on yourself. Only God's love is an eternally sustainable reality you can bank on. Now, René Girard, may he rest in peace, is one of the most brilliant minds ever to think through human psychology. He was at Stanford University for a long time. Some of the best work that's ever been done regarding psychoanalyzing what's going on in human beings was done by this man. Now, he coined a term that I'd like to introduce into your vocabulary and just play with for a minute with you. René Girard said that what's going on, everything that we've been describing here for the previous few minutes, he calls it mimetic desire. Mimetic desire. Now, what is mimetic desire? You'll, as soon as it's defined by Girard, you'll say, yep, I experienced that. Someone signals a desire for a particular thing, and now you discover that you want it too. Right? There's only 10 of these left, and you don't care until somebody says, I want one, and so do I. Reserve one of those 10 widgets for me. I want one too, because she does, or he does, or they do. And if 2 people want that thing, if you're observing and then 3 people want that thing, if an entire advertising campaign goes nationwide for that thing, now not only do you want that thing, but everybody wants that thing. This is mimetic desire. Mimetic desire. Said another way, mimetic desire is the impulse in human nature to mimic. To see what you're doing and to mimic or to imitate or to replicate what I see taking place in you. So what's happening in our culture, this is not a surprise to you, is that in 2019 alone, the U.S. will spend $240 billion plus on advertising. Just on the that's not the products themselves and their manufacture, and this is just to advertise the product, $240 billion, and that is more than the gross domestic product of 160 nations combined, that this nation will spend on advertising stuff that we didn't even know we wanted until they told us we wanted it. So Walter Brueggemann, one of my favorite Old Testament scholars, says it this way: artificial desires readily transposed into urgent needs. That's the advertising industry he's talking about here. Artificial desires readily transposed into urgent needs. You didn't even know you needed it until they told you you needed it, and now you really need it. This is mimetic desire. So apparently, with the Kylie Jenner phenomenon, a 21-year-old girl sending out a single tweet and nearly toppling an entire multi-billion-dollar corporation within 5 days following her tweet. I don't like Snapchat anymore. And half the planet says, well, neither do I. I was just waiting for permission from Kylie to not like it. Nearly toppled a multi-billion-dollar corporation. We humans are extremely impressionable creatures, apparently. We're malleable. Your brain is silly putty. Well, don't be offended by that, so is mine. We are extremely impressionable creatures as human beings. We imitate whatever we're looking up to. Whatever turns our gaze upward, we want to mimic. There is a vital relationship, I'm suggesting to you, between what we see and what we do. There's a vital relationship between what we see others doing and what we mysteriously now ourselves want to do. And if those individuals who are doing those things just happen to be celebrities who have a lot of money and a lot of sexual exploits and a lot of fame, if they give the signal, our desires flow in the direction of what they say we ought to want and value. That's what's happening in our culture. So more precisely what I'm saying, to just articulate this with as much precision as I can achieve, there is a vital relationship between what we idolize and what we do. Not just who and what we look up to, but the process of idolization itself is what is at work in our culture. We tend to think, if I say the word idol or idolatry, most people in our world are thinking, oh, yeah, they used to do that, didn't they? That's an ancient practice of ancient peoples in ancient time past. They used to make little figurines, maybe big ones for the city square, and bow down in front of them. Oh, those poor idolaters. What I'm suggesting to you is that idolatry is a living, breathing, pulsating reality right here, right now. Timothy Keller says it this way, if you would just entertain his thought with me. He says, you don't get to decide to worship or not. Just take this in for a minute. You don't get to decide whether to worship or not. I'm thinking Bob Dylan again. You got to serve somebody. It may be the devil or it may be the Lord, but you got to serve somebody. You don't get to decide to worship or not. Everyone worships something. The only choice you get is what to worship. The fact is, you're a worshiper by nature. You're going to find something or someone to obsess over. And it will be elevated in your estimation to the point that it constitutes your value system, and your identity will be locked into it. Your very identity, your self-worth, your sense of who you are will be composed of that idolized person or thing. So my point is this, that idolatry is a universal psychological phenomenon. You don't have to have a little statue or a big statue, and you don't have to get down on your physical hands and knees in order to experience idolatry. It's not merely an ancient practice of ancient peoples in the ancient past. No. Idolatry is a universal psychological phenomenon that human beings experience. Let me put it to you this way. Since we're doing this series on idolatry, we need a working definition of idolatry. So here's a definition of idolatry. I'm not even going to mention little statues or big statues. Here's idolatry: putting anything other than God in the place of God. Living life, even if you're not consciously thinking, oh, this person occupies the place of God. Well, you may not be firing on all cylinders at any given moment to even think that through. There's no such thing as an idolater who knows he or she is an idolater. It really is merely living life as if anything or anyone other than God possesses ultimate meaning and significance. Whether you would self-identify as an idolater or not. Whether you would articulate it as a cohesive, rational system. Yes, I'm an idolater, and let me give you the 5 points that demonstrates my idolatry. No. You can be completely, utterly unconscious of the process that's occurring, and if anything you are living toward occupies the position of ultimate meaning or significance, idolatry is happening. Now, this is the psychological phenomenon of idolatry. Here's how the Bible describes what idolatry is in its effect. Okay, this is Psalm 115, verse 8. Those who make them, the context is here, idols, false gods, false systems of value. Those who make them are like them, so is everyone who trusts them. So here, the one and only true God, who by definition can't be an idol because he is God, the one and only true God says, listen, I'm warning you away from idolatry, not because I am myself a petty narcissist who wants all your attention focused on me. God isn't saying, worship me because I'm amazing. He's saying, you need me because I made you. And your psychological, emotional, and relational well-being is bound up in occupying center stage in my affections, and me occupying center stage in your affections. So God says, I'm warning you, don't do this idolatry thing, man. Don't do it. Why? Because those who make and worship idols become like them. This is the problem. This is the danger of idolatry. That's why nobody in our world right now, except for those who live in northern Saskatchewan, are wearing fat ties. Well, they just don't have access to social media. They haven't noticed that the trend has changed. We're all mimicking, remember René Girard's phrase, we're all mimicking what we see. So you better take control of what you see. You better take control of where your affections are lodged. Because you will morph in the direction, personality-wise and character-wise, you will morph in the direction of whatever it is that you have fixated on, whatever you're obsessing over. Something like this is going down. If you derive ultimate value, meaning, significance from money, well, your character will be shaped in the direction of greed. Worldview-wise, you'll become a materialist. Now, you may not think it through like that, but that's what gets you up in the morning. That's what drives you. That's what motivates you. Okay? Likewise, if you derive ultimate value, meaning, significance from pleasure, I mean sensory pleasure here, well, your character will be shaped toward lust, and you will become a hedonist. Your whole existence will revolve around getting whatever fix you need to get of sensory stimuli in order for the anxiety to pass and for you to feel like you belong in the universe. Hedonism. If you derive ultimate value from position, applause, people looking at you, your character will be shaped in the direction of control. And you will become a celebrity or a politician. These are your options. There are other options. I'm sure I couldn't think of any. Now you're saying, well, how many of us will make it to the world stage of celebrity and politics? Well, I'm using the words in a much more broad sense than that. Some of you are politicians in your office, playing people against one another in order to get that position that she might get if you don't bring her down in the estimation of you know who. Some of you are celebrities in your little fandom club, you just have 20 people who adore you. Your mom, your dad, 2 of your aunties, 2 of them can't stand you, 4 uncles, the other 6 don't want to be around you. And you can count up the 20 people in your world that you gravitate toward because they keep your ego stimulated. So you're a celebrity in your own little world. You don't have to be on the world stage to be a celebrity in your own little micromanaged universe, do you? The point is that in each case of idolatry, whatever the fixation is, whatever the obsession is, in each case, you will become the center of your own little self-contained universe. And here's the key. You will become more and more completely like your own worst impulses. If you allow money to be the highest value, for example, materialism, material things, and that's what gets you up in the morning, that's what drives you, then you will gradually become more like that isolated character trait in you that only took up maybe 8% of your emotional and psychological space. Before you know it, it's going to take up 15% of your emotional and psychological space. Before you know it, it's all you can think of. And it becomes your identity. Now, Jesus experienced mimetic desire. He experienced what René Girard explained to us because he had a focus. John 5:19 says, most assuredly, this is Jesus talking, most assuredly I say to you, the Son, he's talking about himself, can do nothing of himself. Check this out. But what he sees, note the word, what he sees the Father do, he can't do anything except for what he sees the Father do. For whatever he, the Father, does, the Son does in like manner. What is Jesus saying here? He's saying, my attention and my affections are locked in to the Father. I am intimately familiar with his character. That's what he's saying. I see the way he thinks and feels and behaves. And by getting to know who God is, Jesus says, I just live out what I see him doing. I'm just like him. If you want to know what God is like, look at me, he says later on. If you've seen me, you've seen the Father. This is a key component of his teaching, you see. Jesus is saying, listen, I just do or live out the ramifications of what I'm focused on. Can I say that again? I just live out the ramifications of what I'm focused on. And I happen to be focused on God, my Heavenly Father, and he's beautiful. And the beauty of his character is beautifying me. Whatever he does, I just do what I see him doing. It's the difference between idealizing self-centeredness by idealizing popular culture and celebrity culture. What is called in the psychology literature now extreme fandom. Idealizing self-centeredness as really what life is all about. What it's about is getting me in the position where I can experience to some degree what I see my idols experiencing. Versus idealizing other-centeredness. Listen. If you worship the idols of our celebrity culture, you are essentially worshiping yourself vicariously through the image they project. It's really not about them. It's about you wanting what they have and who they are. You want to be them, or at least like them. And so what's happening is you are undergoing a phenomenon of transformation. You are living out an idealized selfishness. Versus, try this on for size. If you worship Jesus, you are worshiping love in its purest form through the image of God that he projects. To worship the one and only true God is to worship pure love. God is love, and Jesus is the definitive revelation of God's love. To lock your attention and affections and your worship on him, are you tracking with me? Is to experience a process of gradually being emancipated or liberated from yourself. Everything takes a back seat to him, and there is stuff in the back seat. That's where it belongs. You're going to have some money, but it doesn't belong in the front seat, in the driver's seat. Nothing's inherently wrong with money. There's not even anything inherently wrong with being wealthy. But if that wealth is in the front seat and the driver's seat, defining who you are and deriving from which you derive your value, there's nothing wrong with pleasure. Anybody had a good popsicle this summer? Come on. Those Dole popsicles with no added sugar. I like that part of the label. With actual chunks of strawberries in them. There's nothing wrong with pleasure. You put it in the driver's seat, it'll destroy you. Selfishness folds in on itself and collapses your sense of meaning. You are an end in yourself, versus love unfolds outward and expands with meaning. You lock your attention and your affections in on Jesus, and you will become more and more like him, and in the process, become more and more like the one and only true God who alone is worthy of our worship. God's not a narcissist. He just likes us. He made us. And he knows that we are most who we're meant to be when we are living out the ramifications of his love.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. We hope that message was a blessing to you. God's word is powerful. It penetrates into our minds, into our hearts, and brings about transformation in every aspect of our lives. Listen, we don't want you to miss any content, so again, we want to encourage you to click on subscribe and track with the content that's going to be coming out week after week. And if you'd like to partner with us in this global ministry of taking the gospel of Christ to the whole world, we want to invite you to become a partner in this ministry. Click Give